Hey everyone, I am with Ali Gifford. She's a physical therapist in Maine, and she, like me, has her own eating disorder recovery. So she's going to tell us about that. Ali, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, so you are based in Maine. You work with kids, so you do pediatric PD. So it's a little different from what I'm doing. But you're originally from Massachusetts, and you made the escape.
Yes.
Yeah. How did that go?
Made the transition.
Yeah.
It was good. Yeah, it was good. I mean, I love living in Maine. Maine is like my dream sort of place to live in. So it has like the mountains and the ocean, and it just has everything that, nature wise that I could ever want. So yeah.
The second week of October, I'm sure it's pretty nice.
Yeah. It's like, it's called like leaf peeping season. So there's a lot of people that come and like look at all the leaves and everything. So it's but like right now it's not as touristy as it normally is, but obviously, yeah, it's very pretty for sure.
Nice. So you like me, you're a physical therapist, but at one point you had your own eating disorder, or even multiple. So I wanted to know if you could tell the audience how that started, when it started.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I grew up with several eating disorders, like I was saying in like my Instagram, which from the time I was 8 to 24 years old. And it's kind of, I don't really know necessarily what it stemmed from per se, but like I know for like a while, like, you grew up in families where it's like there is just so much weight on like, how someone looks, or like the diet, all the diet rules that people might have. And if you're hearing that on a day in and day out basis, especially as a child, you kind of like take it in as a sponge. And I think I was just one of those kids that would hear all these dieting sort of comments from adults in my life. And I think I kind of took that in. It was just a very self-conscious, anxious child. And it kind of turned into that eating disorder behavior. And it evolved from like anywhere from like binge eating disorder to bulimia to anorexia and back to binge eating disorder and bulimia. So it was like a very wide range that I went through in those like 16 plus years that I suffered from my eating disorders. But yeah, so it was just like a lot of different things that I experienced. And when I recovered when I was about 24 years old, when I was like found the coaching world per se.
So, and this started really young, right?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I was like, I think I was like in an elementary school when I was first noticing that like, I actually remember I went to a friend's house when I was like, I don't even know, like 10 years old. And like, we made cookies. And like, I think I had an anxiety attack from just eating too many cookies. But like at the time, like when my doctor didn't know I had anxiety or that I wasn't diagnosed. So I, was actually having a panic attack, but they thought it was like they diagnosed it as an asthma attack. And I like went to the hospital, and turns out I was just having a panic attack about the fact that I ate quote unquote too many cookies. So
why do you think it started so young?
Like I think it was just like, honestly, just like I said before, like just being around, like I had family members that were like on Weight Watchers. And then I also had family members that like, I would show them a picture of like us together, and they would be like, oh, like I look like a whale in that photo or something like that. Like just adults in my life kind of making comments. Cause it's like, I know we all kind of grow up with these dieting sort of rules and all this diet talk and all these like fad diets that go on. And my family members, my adult family members and relatives were definitely part of that time period where like Weight Watchers was a huge thing. And like the 90s, like having like that skinny tomboy sort of look was it was very in at that time. And I was born in the 90s. So that's kind of like what I grew up with hearing all the time. So I think just being a child, like any sort of child will take things in like a sponge, and they'll just they're almost like they can relate it to themselves. Not every child, but like I know I was a very anxious sort of child, and I was just like wanted people to like me so bad. I kind of had that perfectionistic type A personality from a very young age. And I just wanted to be liked so badly. I was like, I thought that to be pretty and to be worthy, I had to be, thin, and I had to eat this certain way and all these things. And I remember coming home and eating a snack, and I was a growing child. So like, I remember coming home and eating snacks and kind of trying to hide it because I would receive comments being like, oh, if you keep eating that, you're going to be 500 pounds and things like that. And like, all this negative connotation around food. And that's kind of what I grew up with. So I think it just kind of culminated into that eating disorder behavior.
Yeah, I hear several things. It's like youth, it's insecurity, it's family, it's culture, it's
Totally.
desire to fit in.
Yeah.
It's not just like one thing.
No. Yeah. There was a lot of things. And like, I don't necessarily know like the deep rooted cause, but just from the culmination of things that kind of happened, I think that it all together kind of manifested into that eating disorder behavior for sure.
So it started when you were in elementary school and it went all the way through college?
Yeah. So I was elementary school is when it started. And then through middle school, high school, I went through years of therapy and like nutrition counseling. And I was hospitalized for anorexia when I was a sophomore in high school. And then it all went throughout college and grad school. And then finally towards the end of grad school, I'd say, is when I started to, actually figure out how to recover on my own, because everything else hadn't worked in the past. So, it was a long time coming for sure. What
did you do in therapy? Just curious. I never went through formal therapy or rehab.
Yeah. So therapy for me, I think I went into the mindset with therapy that they were going to fix me sort of thing. And I don't know, I honestly, when I was in therapy through like middle school and high school, I actually found it to be like a very negative experience. But I've been in therapy like as an adult and in my adult life, and it's actually been very helpful. So I think it can be helpful. But at the time when I was going through eating disorder recovery, it was actually very unhelpful, and it actually made me regress because I kind of blamed, what they went through is just they did a lot of like kind of getting to the root cause of my eating disorder and like trying to navigate like what is causing you to do this behavior and everything. And to me, like I just wanted to like address what I was going through and figure out tools to like move forward, whereas they kind of were pulling me back. And it kind of like made me blame my family and really hate on my family a lot. And like, so I think it was just a very negative experience for me and actually made me regress versus make progress in it. But I know that's not everybody's therapy experience. I think that going in with the right mindset and finding the right type of person to help you through your sort of recovery can be very helpful, whether that's a coach or a therapist or whoever.
Yeah. And you're coaching people now.
Yeah. I'm actually taking a little bit of a break right now because I went through a lot of life transitions in the past few months, but as life starts to settle down, I'll be getting back into it for sure.
Great. So what did you find that helped?
So the biggest thing for me, I actually found like kind of like a coach. Like she didn't call herself a coach. She called herself like a nutrition dietitian sort of person. But she basically just helped to like coach me and like gave me a lot of like advice and like asked me like a lot of questions and like everything, what you hear and see about in the coaching world. And that's actually what helped me recover, because it gave me, instead of focusing so much on the past, it gave me tools to like move forward in the future. Like your past does not dictate what you're capable of doing in the future. You're not going to be, because I was told by many people, like therapists, doctors, that like you're going to be in relapse, but you're going to be in like remission basically for your eating disorder, but you can relapse at any time sort of thing. And I was like, that's just didn't feel right to me. Like growing up, I'm like, I can recover, but I'm not actually ever going to truly recover and not have to worry about this ever again. So coaching like is what really helped me realize like I could actually recover fully and not have to worry about this ever again. And like I still have like the typical, like sometimes I'll get like a little bit anxious about like, weight or food or something, but it's like, it's more of like something that's like manageable and something that doesn't like, hinder my entire day. But whereas beforehand, it would have just like completely debilitated me having thoughts like that. So the coaching world really helped me to kind of push forward for the future versus keeping me stuck in the past.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that, because I like to say a therapist looks at the past, a coach looks at the future.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%.
And I tell my clients, it doesn't really matter how you got to this point.
Right.
Like you're at this point, let's think about where you want to go. Like you could have gotten to here from a million different ways. It's like, it's over, it's done, you can't go back. So think about the future a little more.
Right.
Or a lot more,
exactly.
I should say.
Exactly.
Good.
Yeah.
And so they told you that you would relapse, like you would just have to walk on eggs the rest of your life.
Oh yeah. Yes, exactly. I'd be walking on eggshells the rest of my life. And I was just like, I was not okay with that. And I actually like read a book too in high school that like I didn't really fully incorporate into my recovery until I was in college. But it was like basically separating, like, because I had a lot of anxiety and I had a like depression when I was in middle school, high school. and I had to be able to differentiate, but kind of like separate my anxiety and my depression from my eating disorder. Because for me, I was like, oh, like all I have to do is solve my anxiety and solve my depression, and then I will have recovered from my eating disorder. But that was actually a very backwards way of thinking. And what actually is even more helpful is if you say to yourself, like, I can still have anxiety and I can still like experience symptoms of depression, but I can recover from my eating disorder completely separate from that. So like, it's actually the eating disorder that's exacerbating those symptoms versus the anxiety and depression exacerbating the eating disorder symptoms. So it's kind of thinking about it in reverse that actually helped me recover from my eating disorder. And then also that in turn helped with my anxiety and depressive symptoms and everything.
Do you find a link between EDs and anxiety?
I think so. I do think that like the people that I've worked with and talked to, it's like the people who are very like type A, perfectionistic, people pleaser type of people, the people that are just like anxious about things in general they can tend to manifest more into eating disorder behavior and like body image, negative body image sort of behavior and everything. So yeah, I definitely have seen that more than the people who don't have like sort of those underlying mental health sort of issues for sure. It just depends on how people kind of like deal with those symptoms or those anxious or depressive symptoms.
Yeah, because everything in your life could be perfect and you could still have an ED.
Yeah.
But the opposite is also true. You could solve the ED and still have anxiety.
Right. Exactly. And that's kind of what happened with me. Is like I still had anxiety when I recovered from my eating disorder. It's just one, it was a lot less because like my eating disorder, like, binge eating like every other day and then having to like, or me thinking I had to like exercise it all off, like that 100% added to my anxiety every single day. So when that was taken away, my anxiety became a lot more manageable. But now I still deal with anxiety every day, but I know how to manage it a lot better, especially now with my eating disorder gone. So it really doesn't affect me nearly as negatively as it did before, for sure.
One of your Instagram posts said, by the way, I'll put a link to your Instagram.
Yeah, go for it. That'd be awesome.
Because you got some great photos of Maine. So even if you're not into EDs, I mean, if you're watching this, you probably are, but just look at the photos of her, of her hikes. It's really nice. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
I tip my hat.
Yes, that's actually how one of the biggest ways I recovered from my eating disorder was nature. Like I got outside and I was like, wow, if I stayed stuck inside, that's kind of when things kind of shit hit the fan sort of thing. But
yeah. Do you think you're going to see a lot more of this now that people have been stuck inside for the past 6-7 months? More
like eating disorder behaviors?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's a big thing that I was seeing when the quarantine was first happening and everything, is that people like that experienced eating disorder behavior or like had eating disorders in the past were getting really worried because they were so cooped up in the house. And for me, like I actually did like a whole post on it too, because there had to be different ways to kind of like make it so you're not always in those eating disorder behaviors. So like for me, that was getting outside and like even if you have to like wear a mask or like just going for a walk down the street and just like having some sense of normalcy or some sense of like just not sitting in those negative emotions all the time, which is important to do for sure to feel those emotions, but at the same time balancing it out with moving your body and like being able to like do the things that you enjoy for sure.
Yeah. It's sometimes a lot of times that's better than an antidepressant. It's just
yes.
Getting outside.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah. Nature for me is like therapeutic. So way more than a drug ever could be.
Well, one thing one of your posts talked about personality and how your ED affected your personality. Mm-hmm. Can you explain?
Yeah. So I know we were talking about this before, but like like you said, one of my posts was like me talking about how I am a very like playful, like fun, like I like to joke around sort of type. Like that's the type of person I truly am. And when I was in my full-blown eating disorder behaviors, I was very subdued in my personality. And I think that stemmed a lot from the fact that like I thought I had to look a certain way. I thought I had to act a certain way. I thought I had to like speak a certain way in order to be liked and accepted throughout my entire life. And a lot of that was like stemmed from those eating disorder behaviors and being sort of in that realm my whole life. And I noticed that the decisions I made in life, the relationships I had, family relationships I had, friendships I had, were deeply affected by my eating disorder. And then when I was able to recover, I've kind of like fully flourished into the person I am today, because I don't feel like I have to subdue myself anymore to kind of be accepted. And I definitely still have those like people pleasing sort of tendencies that I work on with myself. But at the same time, it's like I don't have that eating disorder like holding me back, or like those like diet rules or societal standards for like how you're supposed to look or act or whatever. Those didn't affect me in the way that they did when I was really in my full-blown eating disorder, for sure. So it definitely affects personality 100%.
So then you made peace with food. How would you define that, like making peace?
Making peace with food. So for me, what that looked like is that I used to have like so many diet rules, and I used to be thinking about food like day in and day out, like constantly, like when I woke up in the morning, when I like throughout my day, when I went to sleep at night, I was always thinking about food, but in a way that was like very stressful and very negative. Like even now I think about food all the time because I just love to eat. But like, but for me, it's like not a stressful experience now, because it's like, I don't have those diet rules anymore. I don't have those subconscious, like, I can't eat that. Like, you shouldn't be eating this. Like that negative talk in your brain that's like telling you that you're doing something wrong all the time. That for me is gone. Or if it comes up, I kind of like, I take note of it, but at the same time, I kind of let it pass versus giving it any sort of value in my life. And that lets it kind of like pass through my brain versus sitting there and like causing all these negative emotions to come up. So for me, making peace with food was like getting rid of all those diet rules that I used to have regarding food, and just being able to like eat like more intuitively. So I like to come at it from an intuitive eating sort of standpoint, where I can eat whatever I want, whenever I want. And because of that, I don't tend to overeat or binge on the things that I used to binge on. So like I'll have like ice cream and brownies every day, but or like cookies every day, but like I'll eat like a little bit of it, versus like if I was not allowing myself to have those foods and then I would binge on it back in the day. Now I can just like, I eat it whenever I want, and like I don't have food rules about it, and then I'm fine. So it's like, that's the making peace part. Yeah,
this web of rules makes us so miserable and regimented.
Exactly.
And even though you had your dream body, you were still miserable.
Yes. Oh, I was so miserable. Yeah, I remember, so that was one of the posts I had on Instagram too, where like I kind of put like my comparison of like what my body looked like, even like a couple years ago, and what my body looks like now. And in that the couple years ago, it's like I might have had like I don't know, like the ideal physique or whatever, but I was so emotionally tormented. I would walk to and from grad school like a few years back, which was like, 2 miles there, 2 miles back. And then I would when I got home, I would do like workout videos, like, for like 40 minutes. And then I'd like go to the gym. Like I was constantly working out. I was constantly like eating less than my body needed. And if I did eat more than my body needed, or something I considered bad, I would throw up. So it was like one of those things where I was just very like, what you see, like as from like a, from an outside perspective, what you see in a person is not necessarily like considered healthy. So like some people might have looked at me then and been like, oh, that person looks so good and so healthy. I was not healthy whatsoever. So that external experience that someone might witness is not actually the reality of the situation, because I was miserable. Now I am so happy, like in my own body and in my own skin. But before then, I was just like, I was a mess and emotionally tormented, even though out from the outside, I looked like what someone would ideally want to look like, I guess.
Yeah, looks are deceiving.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind when you're on social media and you see somebody, the nice, the abs and the booty and all that. I mean,
you can't judge a book by its cover, for sure.
No, you can't always, and it's really easy to pretend on social media.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I try to do on my social media page. Is like I like to be more like realistic. Like I post a lot of pictures without makeup on, or like I'll post like pictures of like because I've struggled with acne my whole life too. So I'll post some pictures of that. So I think it's like with social media, a lot of people will like put on that facade, but you're not actually seeing the full spectrum or the full view of their life.
Yeah, no. And the other thing too, sometimes those extra 10 pounds aren't worth it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I mean, if the difference is having a life and having no life,
exactly.
Maybe you should reconsider.
I highly enjoy my cookies and brownies every day.
Well, that, but you're not walking 2 miles to and from school.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like you're actually sane. You know?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm so much like I was not in a good place back then. Like I feel like I have so much more headspace for other things now, whereas beforehand, like my headspace was only around food and my body and like, you know, working out and like everything. Like that's all I had the mental capacity for. I mean, obviously I was in grad school, so I had to focus on that too, but it made my grad school experience and like my, you know, all my schooling experience so much harder than it had to be because my headspace was just always surrounded around food. Whereas now I can focus on other things, which is not something I was able to do before.
Yeah, I went through grad school with the ED too. Didn't tell anybody, of course, but it makes it's like having a full-time job.
Oh, it is. Yeah, exactly.
Because you're trying to manage this thing and you're trying to, you know, cram all this information. And I don't know how I did it. You know, I'm lucky.
I know. I don't either. My body went through. Yeah, my body went through hell for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I came this close to flunking out. That would have been like catastrophic, at least at the time. One thing you said too is no one can do the recovery for you. What do you mean by that?
So basically, a lot of the times when people like you look at someone or you hear about someone or you talk to someone that might have an eating disorder or eating disorder behaviors, a lot of the time, like friends or family will kind of like talk at them, like saying like, oh, you don't look healthy, you don't look good, or like this doesn't, like they'll kind of comment on your life and comment on that person's like experience. But at the same time, like that person's not going to want to change until they like make the decision to change. And obviously like family can be around to support them and love them and help them. But at the same point, like they're not going to change unless they make the decision to change. So for example, for me, I could not, like I used to have all of that of people like telling me how good I looked or like that I looked too skinny or like whatever, like they make comments about like how I was eating, how I looked or whatever. But it wasn't until I saw how negatively it was affecting my life that I actually and like really dedicated myself to wanting to make a change without like those subconscious beliefs of like, I still want to be skinny. I still want to like not eat this certain way or whatever. Like once I let go of those feelings and kind of like made the decision for myself to recover, that's when I actually was able to recover. Versus if you have just people talking at you left and right, or like if you're in a therapy session and someone's like telling you should change or you should do this, that person isn't going to like make a significant difference in their life until they see how positively of an impact it's going to make once they make those changes.
Yeah, that's the first step to recovery is that you have to want to change.
You have to want to. Yes, exactly. You have to.
So I've just seen too many stories of people being forced into therapy, being forced into rehab. Because it's hard because when you see somebody self-destructing, you want to help.
Oh, for sure. 100%. Yeah.
But when I think about who I was when I was like 21, 22, 23, I actually thought I was doing the right thing.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So I didn't feel the need for therapy. I didn't feel the need for rehab. It's like, why are you trying to help me? I don't need to be helped right now. Now looking back, that's like so obvious, but just keep that in mind that you can't impose change on somebody.
Right. Totally. 100%.
That person has to be in the right state of mind.
Yeah, exactly. And that, like you said, it can be really hard for like loved ones and like people who see they're like someone that they love going through this. But at the same time, it's like, if you're kind of like validating the person's experience that might be going through this and kind of just being there to support them and just love them, and like they'll start to see on their own like how like negatively their behaviors might be making them at the same time. But also like what you said too, it's like you thought what you were doing was right. And like, that's like a very normal experience for a lot of people going through like, you know, orthorexia or anorexia or having all of these food rules or diet rules, because everybody, or not everybody, but like it's seen like so mainstream now, or even like in years past as well, that having all of these rules and all of these like, you know, health sort of rules and supplements and exercises and routines are normal and healthy, even though they're actually not. So it makes sense why you would think that was like, you know, something that you were doing that was good versus something that's actually debilitating your own mental health. Right.
And you can express your concerns, that's about it. And you just have to let him or her see that this is a problem. Eventually they will.
Exactly.
But maybe sometimes the best thing is like hands off.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, okay, just let this thing play itself out.
Yeah.
She will see that she has a problem at some point. It's just right now she's not in that state of mind.
Right, exactly. And like you can be an example too. Like, and if there are like loved ones who see that they have like someone in their life that is going through this, sometimes the best thing to do is kind of like be that example for that person. Like love them, support them, but also like, you know, be an example of like, you know, just being aware of how you speak, like about your own body and about your own food experience in front of that person. Or in front of anybody, because it could help that person too, just like being more positive around food and around their bodies and everything, and just being that example for someone. And that person who's going through all those disordered behaviors might see that change, or how you're acting around your own body, your own food experience, and see like how it's positively affecting that other person too, and want to make that change for themselves.
I think that's one good thing about social media. I mean, it can be abused, obviously.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
If you're on TikTok watching anorexia videos, then it's probably not going to help you. But
no.
When I was going through this, when I was 24, you know, when I was your age, there were, I know I feel so old for social media, but
I know, same.
there were no resources online for what I had.
Yeah.
None. I mean, I couldn't go on YouTube and type in, you know, my eating disorder recovery and watch, you know, all these different videos. There was nothing like that. It was just like these really grainy videos and people saying, "Oh, I just binged on brownies" or whatever. There were no coaching programs like this. There was no Dr. Ali Gifford on Instagram.
No, there was no coaching programs for me either. That's like, even the one I had, she was like a dietitian. I just said that she was basically my coach, because she basically was. But yeah, it was the same thing for me too. Like they didn't have any of those resources. So it's like, you don't know what's right or wrong, or what's actually helpful or what's not. So yeah, it definitely makes it harder. Yeah.
It's only within the last 5 or 6 years that we've had these kind of resources. So never a better time to have an ED. I mean, there's never a good,
you never want to have one, but yeah,
at least
at least there's more help now.
Yeah, way more help than 10, 15 years ago. So one of the last things I wanted to talk about is loving your body, because when I hear that, I'm not sure how to interpret it. I don't know, maybe that's more feminine language, and I just like my male brain just doesn't understand. Love your body. I mean, what do you do? Like, I love your body. You know, it's just like, I don't know, like, what does that mean? What does it mean? Is it just a trope that we see on social media? So I'm going to let you explain that, because you clearly
So it could mean something different for everybody, to be honest. But I mean, I'm sure like there's so many people now that have heard like the whole term of like body positivity and body love and body acceptance, body confidence. Like there's a whole like realm, whole spectrum of like different words that you can put to it. And really what it comes down to is being able to just accept your body for what it is right now. Versus like hating on it all the time. So I think that's the major difference, is that you'll start to notice like, what does your talk look like in your brain? Is it like very negative? Like, oh I look so fat today. Like I like, I'm so disgusting. Like, what is the language that you're using when you're like thinking about or speaking about your body, or even somebody else's body? That's what body positivity is all about too, is just like not judging and not comparing, like in terms of when you see somebody else like walking down the street, or when you're thinking about yourself. It's more of like that. It's like that distinction between the hateful words towards your body and just words of acceptance towards your body. Just thinking about like, yes, I don't feel good in my body right now. And like I can validate that experience. And at the same time, I can accept where I am right now and know that my feelings right now are temporary. And sometimes like that can just be the biggest difference. It's just being able to accept your body for what it is right now at this very moment. And not thinking about what you want it to be, what it was, what it can be. It's thinking it's accepting what your body is right now. And I think some people can hear the term or the phrase body love, and it gets like, it comes to a point where it's almost like it can feel intimidating, because to like go from someone that like hates your body so much and like thinks it's like disgusting and you can't even look at yourself in the mirror, to all of a sudden being able to look at your body in the mirror and be like, oh, like I look sexy, I look great, like that's like a very wide like range. Like that's a really big jump to get to. So it can feel intimidating when you hear that phrase or that term. So kind of making the jump from just being able to like hating on your body in that way to being like, okay, I can slowly start to accept where I am right now. That's where you get towards that body love and that body positivity sort of space. And that's kind of the ultimate goal. Like even now for me, like I don't always love my body. Like it's not like I'm sitting in the mirror every day being like, holy shit, like I am the sexiest human on this planet. Like that's not what I do every single day. Like for me, it's more so like, you know, some days I'm like, oh, you know, like I don't feel as great in my body today, but that's okay. And other days it's like, oh, like I do feel really good in my body today. Like I do think I look good. And every day is different. Every day is a new day sort of thing. But it's taking away those hateful comments towards your own body and towards other people's body and realizing that every body is meant to look different. It's meant to be unique. And that's okay. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be versus like what you think of in societal standards of comparing yourself to like what people look like in magazines or TV shows or movies, or people at the gym that you see who you don't actually know their full story. It's just accepting where your body is right now in this very moment. And yeah, that's kind of the biggest distinction.
What if you want to make changes? Can you still love your body? Let's say, for example, let's use an extreme example. You know, you're 300 pounds and you have to buy 2 airline seats.
Yeah.
You know, because you're so big. I mean, how do you need to make changes? How do you love your body in that example? Like, how do you reconcile that?
Yeah. So that's like, I like to talk about that too, because there are people that like don't feel good in their body. Like they don't, like they know they want to make changes and they don't feel good in their body. And it would, for their own health, their own like just overall health, they know that they'd feel better and like, you know, be able to function better as a human every day if they maybe like lost some weight or something like that. And if that is the case, it still does start with accepting your body at that moment, because of a lot of the times when people are trying to lose weight, it comes out of space of hate, and it comes out of space of like, I hate my body so much, and I want to make these changes. But at the same time, if it's coming from that space of hate, it actually causes resistance to losing weight, or you'll lose weight and gain it back, because you'll get to that point where you'll keep losing weight and you'll look at yourself and you're like, oh, more, versus kind of if you are able to accept yourself at each stage of that weight loss sort of period, it's actually more sustainable, and it actually there's actually been studies done about how if you're starting from a place of accepting your body for where it is right now, when you are in your first stages of weight loss, it actually helps with that weight loss transition, and actually can cause more success with weight loss than if you are coming at it from a place of like, I hate my body so much, it's so disgusting, so this is why I'm going to lose weight from this standpoint. Because going from that perspective is like, you're going to continue to hate your body until you look like, you know, like something like that you look like in a magazine or something like that. That's not always the case, but it has been proven that if you're able to just kind of start from that place of acceptance, it actually causes more carryover and like more acceptance as you go through that weight loss process. Because weight loss process, especially if you're someone that is considered significantly overweight, in like from a BMI standpoint, if you are someone that doesn't feel as good in their body or trying to lose weight, it actually, I don't know where I was going. I kind of lost my train of thought for a second there.
That's all right.
But yeah, basically what I was saying is that it can actually exacerbate your issues versus make them better if you're coming at it from a place of hate versus acceptance. So there is still space for that acceptance piece. Instead, like I said, jumping to the body love piece can be a really big extreme. So just kind of coming up from that place of acceptance actually can help with weight loss.
Yeah, you're never going to be completely satisfied with your body. You're always going to find some imperfection.
Yeah.
The people who seem to have that perfect body, they're finding stuff too that they don't like. Oh, you know.
Well, exactly, and that's the thing. That's exactly what it is. Is that's why even with people I've worked with or talked to who do want to lose weight, I kind of like say like, okay, let's hold up. Let's take a step back. Instead of thinking of it as weight loss, let's look at it as body acceptance. Because when you start to accept your body for the way it is, and it start to kind of really get into like getting rid of your food rules and the intuitive eating, a lot of the times people see that they naturally lose weight because they're kind of eating more mindfully. They're eating like they're not binging all the time, and they're being really accepting of their own bodies. And that actually, the effect of that is losing weight. Versus if you come at it from a place of like, oh, I'm going to lose weight, and you continue to have all these diet rules and you continue to have all this body hate, it actually exacerbates those issues and doesn't set you up for long-term success. So the after effect of having that intuitive eating and like kind of like body positivity, body acceptance approach leads to more sustainable long-term sort of like weight loss and then weight maintenance sort of thing. And your body is also meant to change throughout your entire life. Like you're not going to like look the same as you did at like 20 as you do as you're 30 or 40 or 50. Like your body is meant to change throughout your entire life. So if you can learn that foundation of body acceptance right away, then it actually helps. It's like a sustainable way of helping you throughout your entire life in all those different stages of your body.
Yeah, and being realistic too about what you can achieve. Like I said, sometimes those last 10 pounds just aren't worth it.
Exactly. I know there's like a quote that I really love that's like something along the lines of like those last like 5 to 10 pounds, or like, I don't know, like pizza, like late night pizza, or like, you know, eating that favorite cupcake, or like, I don't know, getting dessert with your man. I don't know, something like along those lines. But it's like that, those 5 to 10 pounds are like you living your life sort of thing. And there's no shame in that, or there shouldn't be any shame in that.
Yeah, if you want to go for it, it's fine, as long as you understand the costs. And is it worth it to you? I don't know. You have to make that decision. But a lot of times, it's not.
It's like a sanity thing at that point. It's like, if you're constantly striving for losing that 5 to 10 pounds, what are you going to achieve with that 5 to 10 pounds? Is your actual life going to be better? Losing that, like, that one pant size, is like your life actually going to be significantly improved, like your quality of life? And if it is, then great. But most of the time it's more of like, I'm trying to fit this certain aesthetic or this certain appearance versus thinking about how your life is going to be changed from that.
Yeah. So wrapping up here, you're on Instagram, you have your own program. Like do you have any like a guiding philosophy of your program? I mean, could you like tell us how you help other people?
Yeah. So basically what I can go through what I do in my program is what I really start off with is I kind of start off with where somebody is at in that moment, because everybody's starting off at like a different point of like whether they've had eating disorders in the past and are just trying to kind of like get past the last like dredges of it sort of thing, or if they're like fully in an eating disorder in that moment, or like what their goals are. Being a PT, like I'm very in that realm of like, what are your goals? Like what do you want in your life that your eating disorder or your disordered eating habits or your negative body image, what is that holding you back from doing in your life? So that's kind of what the premise of what I work off of, because nobody is going to be motivated to change unless they see how it could positively impact their life. And that's working towards those goals that they set in the beginning. So that's kind of where I start off from. And then I really work on like the body acceptance, the body confidence piece, like first, because if you can't get past like, the whole mindset of wanting to lose weight and wanting to look a certain way, then a lot of the times like they kind of sets them up for that, almost feeling like they're failing if they don't see a change in their weight sort of thing. So if they, gain weight or if they lose weight during the process, like, which is very natural. So I set them up with that acceptance first. And then I kind of go into the intuitive eating realm. And then I kind of like do the long-term success sort of thing. Like, how is this going to be able to carry over long-term? But yeah, so that's kind of what I go through.
Yeah. Focus on the behavior and the habits and let the chips fall where they may.
Yes. Yeah. I do a lot of mindset work because a lot of the times it's less about like the actual food and less about the actual, weight versus the mindset. Because if you can switch up the mindset and you can focus on the mindset, then all of the rest will fall into place. And I do talk about like diet and stuff and like nutrition and like exercises and stuff like that. But that's less of the focus for me. It's more based on mindset, because that is the key foundational piece that a lot of people tend to miss.
Yeah, very good. So Dr. Alli Gifford, Thank you. And
Thank
that's
you.
where you can find her on Instagram. It's Dr. Ali Gifford. I will
Yeah.
put a link in the description box. Are there any other places where people can find you, or are you primarily on?
I'm primarily on social media. I do have a website, but my main thing is the social media on Instagram. So eventually I'll be opening up my my Facebook group again and like going into my website. But for now, that's kind of where I stand.
Yeah, who needs a website anymore?
I know most people don't have websites anymore.
That's so like 2010.
Exactly.
Oh, website. Oh, great. Yeah. So find her on Instagram. I'll put links below. Ali, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was so nice to chat with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.